Dave Anderson here with the Fisherman magazine. It's August 25th, and these are your headlines. First up, we've got albies that have just invaded Vineyard Sound. It's going crazy out there right now. We also have bluefish, lots of big bluefish in the canal right now. And last up, the fluking south of Block Island, south of the windmills, is really lit up this week. Stay tuned for all that and more on this week's New England Fishing Forecast.
The fishing news is sponsored by these fine partners.
So before we begin, just going to give a quick little update on my dad. Not going to be a long one, don't worry. Just wanted to say that things are actually improving. He's still in the hospital, still going to be there at least another week, I would say. But things are getting better, and I have to believe that some of that just comes from all this goodwill that I'm getting from all you guys. Really appreciate the support, getting text messages, emails, calls, all offering support and prayers and all that stuff. And it's a silver lining for me. This is a terrible thing to have to go through. I know everybody's got to go through it sometime, but it's very difficult. But all you guys offering your support has made it a lot easier for me. It's made me realize how tight-knit the fishing community is. And it's really bowled my dad over too. Whenever I tell him about all this stuff, it really blows his mind. So really appreciate that. And I just want to say a special thank you to regular contributor to the reports here, Jewkes. He made a platelet donation last week in my dad's name, and that's an especially special thing to do, especially since he's been getting regular platelet transfusions. So I just wanted to say that publicly, just how much that meant to me. And I'm going to move on from that now, but just once again to everybody, thank you so much.
$25,000 if you can catch the heaviest blue. The WICC Spectre Eye Care Greatest Bluefish Tournament on Earth is back for its 40th year. Happening all over Long Island Sound the weekend of August 27th and 28th. Over $40,000 in cash prizes, plus, new this year, $1,000 for an under-18 winner. Sign up now at bait and tackle shops or online at bluefishtournament.com. The WICC Spectre Eye Care Greatest Bluefish Tournament on Earth. See you on the Sound.
Next up, of course, is the giveaway, and we're going to conclude this round right now. We're going to give away, we're going to pick the winner for this awesome guppy pencil popper. Very rare color. I don't think he's done more than 20 of these. And the winner of that is, where did I put that? Here we go. Ted Nesius, with this awesome photo of a roosterfish he took somewhere south of the equator down there. Loved the photo, and saw some other photos from the trip. And we're actually talking, he and I, about having him write an article for us somewhere down the road, so keep your eyes open for that. Looked like an awesome trip, and I mean, what a photo. Second and third are kind of tied. It's hard for me to pick one that I liked better than the other. They both sort of have an interesting aspect to them, just kind of showing camaraderie, the camaraderie that goes along with fishing. So the first one is Eric Jackiam. This is him and his neighbor with a double up on bass, and just two guys that look like they're really enjoying the outdoors and making the most of the great fishing that we have here in New England. And then the other one is Kurt Bowman. This is an awesome shot of him with a big swordfish. He sent me a bunch of other shots too of other swordfish. This guy's really on that bite. But you see here he's holding his dog. He calls him his swordfish dog. His name is Marlin. And these two just go out there and they get it done all the time. And just great photo, great fish, and great story to go along with it. So we're going to pick some Usuri prizes to send off to these guys, and we're going to start another one right now. I made a mistake and didn't bring the plug that I want to give away, but I got to tell you, it's a special one. It's a CCW, Couch's Cedar Works, jetty swimmer in the larger size, and I haven't picked the color yet. I got a handful of those down there that Bill sent me, 5 or 6 years ago. God rest his soul. Bill was a friend of mine, and I helped out a little bit with the design of this plug, and he sent me a bunch of these, I guess as a thank you, or maybe just to continue testing out the product. It's a great plug, great guy, and I know they have eBay value, but I'm going to urge whoever wins this not to sell it on eBay. Just either keep it in the package as a keepsake, or put it to work doing what it was meant to do, and that's fish, because that's what Bill would want. And so next week I'll show you the color, and we're going to wrap this up somewhere around the end of September or the beginning of October. I haven't picked the exact date yet, but I will either put that on the screen here or I'll tell you next week. And you can send your photos to me at danderson@thefisherman.com, or you can text them to the number on the screen. And you know, we're going to keep rolling, and all it has to be, if you haven't heard the spiel before, it's got to show you and the fish. So it can't be your foot or your hand, you know, holding the fish up. And you know, it can be any species: freshwater, saltwater, boat, paddleboard, kayak, surf, whatever. Get them into me, and I'll pick my favorites, and we'll pick another winner. So thanks for your continued participation in that, and now it's on to the reports. So let's head off into the reports now, and we'll start things off on the North Shore. And before we go over to James, I heard some news from southern Maine. Decent striper fishing going on up there, but they've seen a pretty good influx of bluefish, which isn't always typical for up there. So a lot of guys are getting in on that. They're getting them on top water, they're getting them on chunks, and a lot of excitement surrounding those bluefish, and that seems to be bleeding all the way down through New Hampshire and into the Plum Island area. So we're hearing a lot about that. And for more on the fishing that's going on in that area right now, let's toss it over to James Jewkes.
This week's report from Plum Island is we have had an invasion of bluefish. I've heard of bluefish all the way up to Saco, Maine, but majority of them that we've been getting are anywhere from New Hampshire, Portsmouth area, right down through Costa. They're all over the place. I'd stick to the river mouths where bait happens to be dropping out. Guys been getting them all kinds of parts of the tide. We did have a northeast blow Monday into Tuesday, but may or may not have slowed things down. As far as the stripers are concerned, we're doing well. Not as much as I'd like to see, or not as the size I'd like to see. There's been some influxes of schoolies coming through that may have to do with the silverside population, and the nighttime guys are definitely doing better still. We have this new moon coming up this week with a great set of tides that I prefer. So if you're out, hit it hard, and don't discount some open sand. Just be aware that you're going to have to work hard. Get out on the rocks. Things will be a little bit easier for you, but a little harder on the body. All right, Dave, that's it from Plum Island. Hope your dad's doing well.
All right, so next up, we're going to move out of the North Shore area. We're going to head down through Boston. We're going to get down to the South Shore area. And that crazy bite that was going on off of Plymouth for the past, geez, I don't know, 5-6 weeks has definitely cooled off. A lot of those fish seem to be moving down toward the canal now, along with the bait. But the nighttime guys are still finding some really nice stripers, especially the guys throwing eels, surf or boat. And, you know, we're seeing fish definitely into the upper 20-pound class, maybe, you know, eking over that 30-pound class. And, you know, the night bite for the surf guys is still looking pretty good down there. As we head down further toward the canal, like I said, a lot of those fish seem to be piling up out there. It doesn't sound like all of them are actually getting into the canal at the moment. There's a lot of bait piled up out there. There's a lot of nice fish out there. And the only thing that does seem to be getting into the canal, which you'll hear more about from Eddie a little later in the report, is the bluefish. There's a lot of bluefish moving into the canal right now, along with some of those mackerel, but the bunker is still staying outside. Out on the Cape, you know, a lot of guys are switching their focus to albies now with the tuna closure. For a little bit more on what's going on in the outer Cape, we're going to toss it over to Ian from the Goose Hummock shop.
We're going to start off with the obvious albies. They've been rolling in this week pretty heavy. In certain isolated spots, there's a lot of bait out there. Tons of peanuts, tons of small sand eels, but there's also tons of people. So I will take this moment, because we didn't touch on this in the video the other day. Fishing etiquette with these guys is atrocious out there. Everybody knows it's like everybody gets too hot and heavy, but rushing up on these fish and running and gunning does not work. Is absolutely just diminishing your shots of catching fish, is screwing it all up. Don't run and gun, don't pressure them. That's why epoxy's cast so far, so you can stay far away from these fish and still reach them. So let's, coming into this week, the fishing getting super hot, let's try to use better etiquette out there. And yeah, so that being said, I had to rant a little bit because this morning, just people are screwing it up. You're screwing it up for yourself, and you're screwing it up for everybody else. So just better fishing etiquette, don't run and gun, stay away from them. You know what I mean? If you see somebody on a school of fish and you run up on them and you screw somebody else out of fish and you screw yourself out of fish, it's just no good. So let's try to be better out there and, you know, really think about keeping distance, you know, neutraling up, I call it, you know, so you're like just barely in gear. You know, you can stay mobile and not just like punch it and spook all these fish. So let's try to use better etiquette, increase your numbers, and less frustration for everybody on the water. That being said, the beach fishing's been super hot. The tides are right for after work. I've hit bay and ocean side this week. It doesn't really seem like it's mattering. The fall run is really starting to shape up here. Lots of Pinot bunker, lots of silver sides in the bay side spots. It's just been super juicy. It's really gonna be a great fall, I'm feeling. Also been doing a lot of freshwater. Pulled out the fly rod twice this week. Absolutely killed it. Got 8 smallies and a bunch of white perch. I absolutely love them. It's super fun. You know, probably going like right before dark is probably be your prime time, and/or first thing in the morning. But I think that that last like 2 hours before dark is probably your best bet for freshwater. And the beach, and then the albies, obviously. Tuna bite, I think it's still been going off with the sword. People have been getting them on a troll and on the jig. So get out there, enjoy. This is like the start. It's gonna get popping here. Tie lines.
Heading out of the Orleans area, coming around the end of the Cape, there's been a lot of focus on the Monomoy area. There's a lot of albies there and a lot of big bluefish there. Guys are doing really well in the albies, and they seem to be getting thicker every day. As we head down further into Vineyard Sound, it's only getting better there. I heard from Skip from Fish Bandit Charters about a 28-inch albie that he caught this week, and some bonito in the area as well. So that's kind of been the epicenter for everybody. I've seen guys all the way from Connecticut heading up to the Cape right now to get in on that albie action. So that's one thing that is drawing a lot of attention in the Massachusetts area. As you head through into Buzzards Bay, there's a lot of bait still in place, but not a lot of fish biting in the eastern part of the bay. We're just waiting for those albies to cut through the islands. They just haven't done that yet. Heading up toward the canal, a lot of bluefish in the canal, as I already mentioned, and there's been some striper action as well, plus a little bit of a crazy story. And for more on that, let's toss it over to East End Eddie and hear what's going on in the canal.
Thanks, Dave. I'm here at Pole 95 on the mainland side of the canal, the site of an unusual accident this past weekend. A boat ran aground here at high tide and had to be removed by some heavy equipment. By the time the heavy equipment got here, the tide had dropped and the boat was just sitting on top of the rocks on the side here. I'd never seen that before. Somebody was having a bad day. I understand nobody was injured, so that's good. And hopefully insurance will pay for it. So we've got the tail end of a rising east tide here this morning, and hopefully it'll be full of fish. So there's bait in the canal. There's still bait. There's silver sides. There's pogies, squid, and mackerel. I saw for myself for the first time the other day. I'd heard mackerel was here, but I just hadn't seen it. And when you see a 10-inch mackerel, it just reminds you of what a pretty fish it is. It looks really nice. It'll look even nicer if stripers were chasing it, and hopefully that'll happen soon. So the canal's still hit or miss, but one guy that got a hit the other day was Todd Benedict, an experienced canal rat, lifetime fisherman, and he caught a fish that most experienced guys that were there said was way north of 30 pounds, probably 35 pounds. And Todd was using a silver and blue old standby cotton cordell that was loaded to 4 ounces. And Dom from Red Top caught a 12-pound bluefish on a surface bite with a left hook wacky mac. And so that must have been quite a battle, because a 12-pound bluefish will fight like a 30-pound striper, as you know. And then another guy who really loves eating bluefish took some home the other day. They were just eating squid, attacking squid, and just gorging themselves with squid. And so much so that the biggest one he caught, 34 inches, was actually vomiting squid. And it was just eating everything it could. So, and then Tony McCann was throwing a green mac magic swimmer, and wasn't really paying attention until a 32-inch bluefish hit him, and got his attention immediately and put up a heck of a fight. And John Doble, the great photographer and outstanding surf caster, got into a surface bite the other day with a yellow guppy jobo, and picked off a couple of slotfish. And then later on, John he caught a 20-pound striper off the bottom with a green mac fish lab. John is a retired detective from the Bourne Police Department, so he used to catch criminals, and now he catches fish. And one guy we won't see around here for a little while is a great surf caster, Billy Walsh from Roslindale. Bill's having an operation for some sun damage, and typical canal rat, the doctor said to him, "Do you have any questions, Bill?" He said, "Yeah, I've just got one question. Can we put off the operation until after the fall run?" So the doctor said no. So Billy, good luck. I hope you get better soon, and we'll see you on the canal. So my tip of the week is that there's a lot of birds and ducks that live in the salt, and they swim underwater great distances. And sometimes you'll see a duck come up near you with a fish in his mouth, and you didn't even see him go underwater because it was quite a ways away where he dove under, and they just swim forever. And so if you see a swirl next to you that resembles a striped bass, don't get too excited. As your heart is pumping and your blood is flowing, it might only be a bird, because they look very similar. So until next week, be safe and catch a big one. East End Eddy on the Cape Cod Canal.
Heading out from there, we're going to go west, into the western part of Buzzards Bay. Bottom fishing still very good there. Jason Colby, running out of Westport here, has been doing very well. Sea bass action's been good, finding some tog now, finding some codfish, and when he stays inshore, he's doing pretty well on the bass. So a lot of fishing going on in this area right now, and Jason's definitely the guy you want to contact if you want to get in on that. And for one last little bit here in Massachusetts, we're going to toss it over to Leyve and hear what's going on the freshwater side of things.
Fishing hasn't changed much. To be honest, all I've really done this past week is carp fish. Running around, chumming a few spots from Worcester all the way out here to the Connecticut Valley district, so Connecticut River, catching commons in both mirrors, in both spots. More mirrors towards Worcester, more commons toward the Connecticut River. With that said, it's really amusing to me, a guy who logs a lot of trips. I normally don't go back and look at my logs until the season kind of winds down, or even sometimes, come spring or just before spring or ice out. Doing these reports weekly, it really shows me how much fishing changes every week. It's kind of, some weeks are the same, and then some weeks, boom, weather's different, and it just completely rolls over. And that's kind of what's happening right now. Carp fishing has been great. I do recommend chumming a spot if you're going to fish it, unless you know a spot where they're kind of piled up. Water levels are still low, even though we got some rain a couple of days ago. Much needed rain. It really didn't make a dent. Believe it or not, the leaves are starting to change in some of the places out here in Western Mass. My guess is probably due to drought more than the cooler nights. I don't know for sure. But looking for this week forward, I think pike fishing is going to be good. I'm willing to probably get out over the next week for pike. I'm going to continue to do some carp fishing in the mix, probably until the water cools down enough for trout. I know the state should be starting to stock soon. I'll have a report as soon as that starts up. Right now, we're checking a spot that I actually posted on my Instagram account a few weeks back and got a lot of good feedback. It's called Dinosaur Tracks on the Connecticut River. It's run by the trustees of Massachusetts. You can see the dinosaur picture behind me. There's a lot of info around here. These three-toed dinosaurs that once roamed the Connecticut Valley area, and you can actually come out here to Dinosaur Tracks and find dinosaur tracks really cool place if you want to bring your family or kids to look for tracks. You can even kind of access the river from here. You do have to cross some railroad tracks, but you can access the river. Some really good fishing in the area. So if you're heading out Western Mass, you're looking for something else to do, dinosaur tracks. And before I go, I'll show you one right here. You can actually see this three-toed dinosaur track. So billions of years old. All right, catch you guys later.
Heading over to Rhode Island, there's a lot of guys that are hanging their hat on the albie thing, but I got to tell you, the albie bite in Rhody right now is pretty scattered. It's definitely better on the eastern end of the state, but it's far from a guarantee. I am hearing about some bonito popping up here and there. Some guys are getting them, like my buddy John Lee, got some jigging for sea bass. He got them in 70 feet of water. So there's some bonito around, there's some albies around, but it really hasn't come together into like a really great bite just yet. So, don't be burning too much gas heading down to Rhody. If you're dead set on getting some albies, I'd head for the Cape right now. Other things going on in Rhode Island right now. The bass bite inshore has been a little tougher. Most of the guys that are getting fish are trolling tube and worm, or they're fishing eels at first light or last light or through the night. It's been mostly a boat thing. I'm hearing about some surf guys getting some fish in Newport and Narragansett area, but mostly slots and smaller. A few better fish mixed in though, you never know. Out at Block, kind of the same deal. It's been better. And there's still been more slot fish out there than what we're typically used to seeing at this time of the year. It's usually mostly dinosaurs. Right now it's a pretty good mix. For a little more on what's been going on at Block Island and beyond, let's toss it over to John Lee from JL Charters.
This week we had some good fluke trips. That was good to see. I've been doing fishing fairly deep, 70 to 80 feet, fairly close to Point Judith and Block Island, and fishing on edges using bait and gulp. Yesterday I got 3 green bonito while jigging for sea bass in 70 feet of water. And those were the first bonitas that I've seen this year. I didn't see them on the surface. They actually hit down about 70 feet. They weren't quite on bottom. They hit when I was reeling up. But then once I got one, I just vertical jigged and got the other ones. They weren't huge. They were like 3-pounders. They were mixed in with the Chub Max. And so I'm seeing on my way to Block Island on the east side, I'm definitely seeing more and more northern half-beak, so that's starting to mature. And I did an offshore trip today, which was kind of mediocre for me. We got out there late, we missed the bite. I was out there actually with a shark biologist. We were looking for makos, which we did not find. We got a couple of duskies. And that was about that. Anyway, have a good one. Hope all is well. See you later.
Thanks, John. Appreciate the report. And we'll check in with you again next week, hopefully. Coming back towards shore. Actually, let's stay at Block Island for one more minute here. I have heard from a few guys now that the fluke bite has been picking up south of the windmills. That's definitely a place you can check out. And, it's you kind of got to make hay while the sun shines, because it has not been reliable for most of the summer. So right now things are coming together a little bit better. Might be a good time to make that run out there for some fluke. Coming over onto the south shore, the fluke bite over there is still pretty spotty. The one good thing that I have heard is that the bass bite at the breachways has been holding on really well, even through all the summer heat. A couple guys have told me that they're getting fish up to 30 pounds from the breachways, throwing bucktails, throwing darters, or drifting eels. So that's something that you can rely on down there, and it's, with the weather cooling now, I can't see why it will slow down. Plenty of bait around too, including some chub mackerel, and a few guys have reported seeing some bonito and even some rumors of albies out that way. Hard to say whether they're definitely there, but it's something to think about. And that's what I have for you guys in Rhode Island this week. We move over into Connecticut. Things are kind of interesting in Connecticut right now. One thing that's kind of got people on edge is that, like, around Fishers and into the race over the last week plus, it's just been a huge inundation of sharks. There's a lot of brown sharks there, and there's a lot of thresher sharks. So that's why you're seeing on social media a lot of these fish that are just bitten in half. A lot of that is happening in Connecticut right now, and it's actually stopped a lot of guys from bass fishing around that area because it's happening so often. And that has been bleeding over a little bit into, you know, into the mainland shoreline between like the Thames and out to like Cornfield. A lot of sharks in that area too. Hard to say why. Maybe it's just an extra warm summer. Maybe it's just an anomaly, but definitely something that's going on and something to be aware of, especially if you're a surf fisherman. For a little bit more on what's going on in the Connecticut River area, let's toss it over to Mike Roy from Real Cash Charters. One.
Hey, what's up, guys? We're into the last week of August now, and what I like to call the pre-fall run. We're seeing a plethora of small bait, often called rain bait, all throughout central and eastern Long Island Sound. There's stripers and bluefish starting to blitz on the bait. That's why I call it the pre-fall run. Rumors floating around of albies. Now, I know they're catching them way east of here, which is typical. The first albie and bonita reports usually come from areas like Vineyard Sound, Newport, Rhode Island, and eventually will come here. Now, there may be a few isolated pods kicking around. I still think it's a bit early to really be targeting them, but the striper and blue fishing is definitely turning on and heating up for people that want to light tackle and fly fish. We're starting to see that kind of surface activity that you're looking for. Bottom fishing, a slight improvement. I talked to a few of the other charter boat captains, and they are catching some keeper sea bass. I'm not sure if it's the increase in minimum size limit or just less sea bass around, but it isn't as good as it was last year. But I'm hopeful that we're going to see a big improvement of that shortly. And for blue fishing, this week is the Bluefish Tournament. So my recommendation for anybody fishing the Bluefish Tournament is to catch some live bunker, or you could diamond jig as well. I always like having live bait though, and I would focus on the deeper reefs and deep water areas with a lot of vast current. Areas such as the Sluiceway and Plum Gulch are probably going to be holding bluefish. You just got to check those boundary lines and make sure you are fishing inside Long Island Sound. That's it. Good luck.
Another thing that's going on right now in Long Island Sound is the WICC Greatest Bluefish Tournament on Earth. And, you know, there's a lot of pressure going to be put on the bluefish this weekend, hoping to catch that $25,000 bluefish. We actually have some advice from a guy that's won that tournament 2 times. That's Andy Locasio. He's from over on Long Island. Let's toss it over to him right now and just hear a little bit about how he gets it done.
All right, good luck, first of all, my fellow competitors for this week's Bluefish contest. Obviously, we've got a low tide at dawn and dusk, and plenty of fish in the Western Sounds, certainly from Execution Light all the way to the east. I've been out in the middle for the most part. I'm sure there's some in the harbors. Look, the one thing I say that people should do, and they probably do wrong on most of these tournaments, is that they work too hard on Friday night after midnight, and then by the time comes to Sunday morning, when the morning fish usually get caught, they're exhausted. So I always say, just plan your days accordingly. Know that you're going to go till Sunday at 5 p.m. and be smart about it. Don't kill yourself early on. Try and get in spots where there's a good number of fish. You can pick through them. Try and find the right fish. You know, and for those of you who like to just go for it, you know, you might want to fish a little bit more inshore and hit a bunch of shallow spots and use your judgment. Do what you do best. Don't go out there and do something you don't normally do just because your buddy said, oh, this was working. Fish what you know, and you got your best chance of success in this tournament.
Thanks, Andy. Really appreciate that advice. And, you know, it's no small feat to win that tournament twice in your life. So definitely big ups to you, man. That's amazing. We're going to hear a little bit more about what's going on in the Bluefish Tournament. But the one thing that I want to tell you guys is a lot of big bluefish out in the Western Sound right now. We'll get full details on that from Max in a minute. But some other places that have some big bluefish right now are also like the ends of Southwest Reef, 6 Mile. Out in that area, I've seen a lot of nice fish coming out of there, and there's also a lot of slot bass in that area still this week. So, you know, you may want to call someone like Rock and Roll Charters and see if you can get out with them and get on some of these, get on this great bass bite, and you know, you might find a big bluefish mixed in with them as well. So that area is very good. Porgy bite all along the shoreline has been red hot. Doesn't matter if you're fishing in 5 feet of water or 50 feet of water. If you can find structure, you're going to find the porgies. Sea bass still seems to be best in that central part of the sound, like from going straight out from Niantic Bay and then all the way over to like Southwest Reef, right out there in 70, 80, 90 feet of water. That's where the best bite has been, at least with the guys that I've been talking to. Now as we head west, let's toss it over to Max from Fisherman's World and hear what he's got to say.
Hey everyone, this is Max from Fisherman's World, and this is the week of the WICC Greatest Bluefish Tournament on Earth. The bluefish in the past couple weeks has actually picked up in our local waters. We've seen some good action. I've got it on myself diamond jigging, and I've seen a lot of pictures from customers. They're catching them all different methods. The chunk bite at 28 and 11B on the outgoing has been fantastic. Guys are reporting a really good bite. I would fish some deeper water spots like 40 to 60 feet and always bring a bunker and a lot of bunker chunk. If you're going to do diamond jigging, I would diamond jig 11B on the outgoing in the deeper water spots, and then when the tide starts slowing down, move to the high spot in the middle of the reef. The fish have been keyed in on small bait out there and adult bunker, so you can mix it up with all different methods. Trolling wire like umbrella rigs is a really good way to catch bluefish and to cover some water too. You know, you're trolling, you mark some fish, you can hit a man overboard button and start working that one area. To our west, places like 32A to the weather buoy is really good for trolling, and we've seen some actually really cool blitzes come out of there at sunrise and sunset with bluefish on adult bunker schools. And then guys fishing to our east, places like Middle Ground, that's always a really good bet, and the mouth of the Housatonic always holds tons of bait. The greatest bite in the mouth of Housatonic can be early morning into the nighttime, and then sunset hours. We're fully stocked up in the shop with everything you need. So good luck for everybody that enters. And then our local fishing, striped bass still remains a little slow. The schoolie action is actually really good in the morning right now in sunset hours with all the small bait around. So throwing stuff like little super strike poppers, small Hayden spooks, you know, small soft plastics works well to match the hatch with all the peanut bunker. So that's pretty good. And then the fluke fishing it's so-so. Guys are finding some nice fluke, but they're really working areas. And this time of year can be tricky because you can find them in deep water and then shallow water along our beaches with all the small bait. So bucktails tipped with squid and spring work well, and then gulp is always a really good alternative for guys that don't want to use bait. Porgy fishing still remains red hot from our beaches and from the boat. Guys are catching them from the piers, the state beaches, and then on our deep water reefs and our shallow water reefs. You know, high-low rigs with clams, sandworms, squid work really well. Sea bass, I would definitely concentrate on some deeper water wrecks. That's always the best bet this time of year with the hot waters. You can find them in like 50 feet to 80 feet, even 100 feet sometimes. You know, they'll take a variety of jigs, you know, bucktails tipped with gulp, squid, and then diamond jigs, butterfly jigs, knife jigs, you name it. All right, thanks and good luck.
Thanks, Max. Appreciate the report and especially the advice on the WICC stuff. Last up for the Connecticut report, let's toss it over to Rowan Lytle and Captain Noah Johnson. Let's hear a little bit about the, you know, underutilized fisheries that we have here in New England.
Hey, Dave. While a lot of people are getting excited for the fall run, I'm kind of looking forward to the fact that the stabilization of the weather and some slightly cooler temperatures are bringing a lot of the warm water fish up out of the deep channels. Right now, I'm pretty focused on bowfin. I had a client this morning, actually. He got his first bowfin ever. We were using fly gear. I go with short leaders and very heavy flies on stout hooks and look for the fish around the weeds and just drop the fly in front of them. Now, Captain Noah Johnson targets them as well. He uses spinning gear.
It's pretty simple stuff. Any jig head and soft plastic over a certain size, normally 1/8 of an ounce or so is a pretty good size to go with as far as weight. Baits up to about 3 inches long. They don't have the biggest mouths, or they take short bites more so you can have a pretty poor hookup ratio if you use something too large. You can also get them on something like a weightless soft plastic, or here and there they'll hit top waters pretty aggressively.
Yep, bowfin are a lot of fun. They're a really, really cool prehistoric fish. And in fact, really recently some genetic work was done that determined that there are in fact 2 different species. We only have 1 in Connecticut, of course, but they're a heck of a fish. A lot more people should be targeting them, we think.
And before we wrap this up, let's head on down to Marina Pez Vela in Costa Rica and hear how the fishing's going on down there.
Hey there guys, and welcome to Marina Pez Vela, Costa Rica with this week's fishing report. Right now we got a great mahi-mahi bite going on, just 8 to 15 miles from our coastline here in Costa Rica, There's a lot of debris which builds up as a result of the recent rains that we've been having, and the mahi-mahi love to gather under this debris. Some great fishing, lots of fish in the 8 to 15 pound range, and some big bull dorado, 30 pounds and above as well, showing up also. We've had some really nice wahoo over the offshore reefs, plenty of wahoo in the 20 to 30 pound range, and further offshore, typically 30 miles and above, we've had some really nice yellowfin tuna. Only yesterday there was a 130 pound yellowfin tuna caught, and lots of fish in the 20 to 50 pound range. Bill fishing's been good. We got blue marlin plus a few sailfish, and the fishing is really going to get cranking here from November onwards. Would love to see you guys down here in Costa Rica. Back over to you, Matt.
And that's what I have for you guys this week in the reports. Hopefully you guys will find them useful. As I say every week, don't forget, head over to the website, fisherman.com, check out what we got going on over there. If you're not a subscriber, there's enough free content there to give you a good taste of what we offer. And you know, as I always say, it's the best 30 bucks you can spend in fishing, especially if you're a multi-species angler. We cover it all, fresh and salt, fly, kayak, everything in between. So head on over there and check that out. And at the very least, give us a like and subscribe here on YouTube, and hit that little bell thing down there so you get a notification every time we post something new. And also, don't forget that this report is also available as a podcast. So you can go wherever you get your podcasts, search for the Fisherman magazine, and you're going to find it. You can listen to me babbling on while you drive to work in the morning. But however you listen, I appreciate you guys for checking it out, and we'll see you guys next week.